This is Dr. Keisha, and I am going to lecture on Chapter 2, Collaboration today. These slides are available on Blackboard, so let's get started. As usual, I have some study questions for you. So here are some things that after the lecture, after you've read the book, after you have completed your MIS lab, these are some good things to go through to study and to make sure that you are really experienced with the material and in preparation for the exam. This is just a good way to study. All right, so the first thing, since we're only in Chapter 2, the first thing you want to do is to recap on the non-routine skills, the 4 non-routine skills. And as you know, we use an acronym in class called CASA. So as a study mechanism, I would like for you to take a moment to review those 4 non-routine skills. And the first non-routine skill is collaboration, and that's what we're going to talk about today here in this video. So what is the primary purpose of it? In Chapter 1 lecture, we discussed that one of the most important things about collaboration is giving and receiving feedback and being able to accept critical feedback. Remove the emotion from it, right? But let's talk a little bit more about the purpose of it. Why do we do it? We know it's to come together to work towards a common goal, but here's 4 more detailed purposes. So the first one is to inform. We want to share our data and communicate our preferences, our interpretations of some business problem and solution to a greater community. So maybe our group is coming together to decide on some new strategy, or maybe we come together to research a problem and we're going to disseminate that information in some type of way. So we need to have a shared understanding. That's informing. And each of these will build. So we start with informing. Second step, we can really get to the point where we can make decisions, and we'll talk about those 3 levels of decision making on the next slide. Also, solving problems is a big purpose of collaboration. Many times teams are assembled to solve a particular problem we're having. And 4th is just to manage projects. We collaborate together and manage the task, manage the roles, and manage the duties of a project. So let's talk about a little bit more about how we establish these alliances in collaboration. So first, you want to make sure that we're very specific in our collaboration. When we're working on a team, it's easy to use generalized statements such as, "I'm totally confused." But you want to use very specific language. So something like, "John, when you said that our when you said that our project was off track, I don't really understand what that means. What do we need to do to get back on track? Is it some team, collaboration problems we're having, or is it that the project plan has moved, our estimated timeline has changed?" Could you be more specific? Also, you want to definitely offer suggestions. Nobody likes couch potatoes. Nobody likes hitchhikers on a project team. So when you collaborate, you're there because you want to offer your perspective and your suggestion. Avoid personal comments that could be taken the wrong way. You really want to keep it professional until you really get to understand your team a lot better, because sometimes joking words can lead to conflict in a team. You also want to strive for balance. Think about emotions in a team. Definitely do not want to dominate. It's easy to do if you have a really strong personality, or if you really are passionate about the topic or the project that you're on. It's easy to dominate. But you want to demonstrate a commitment to the group, and you want to be a team player. So try not to overstep too many boundaries. And you definitely want to be careful about taking on too much work just because you feel like you may do it better than someone else on the team. You definitely want to demonstrate that group commitment. You don't want to do all the work. You don't want somebody else to do all the work. You want to really have a strong collaboration, and that's how you establish alliances. All right, so there's an example here as well. Now let's go back to the decision-making slide that I mentioned earlier that we would talk about. So the way kind of to interpret this graph is you kind of start here in the lower left quadrant corner, and we start with operational decisions. An operational decision is one of those day-to-day tasks that you need to do your job in the very short term. So today we've got to open the store. What are all the tasks necessary for us to open our store and get ready for business today? Those tasks are usually very structured, as you can see here. Very structured tasks. There's usually a manual or a guidebook to help us through that. More managerial decisions are things that maybe in terms of overseeing over the next few weeks, maybe what staff will we need knowing that the Christmas holiday is approaching, how much do we need to increase our staff, how much new product do we need. These are managerial decisions, and sometimes there's not an extremely clear, definite answer of we know we need exactly 10 people, or we know we need exactly 100 new products or inventory level. You may not know, so there's a bit of structure because you can go by your history of what we needed in the past, but there's still some unstructured things because maybe this Christmas season is warmer than it has been in the past, so we expect even more customers to come into the store. So that's on the line of managerial decision making. And then you have strategic decisions. So one example I like to use for strategic decisions is that of deciding to open a new store or maybe extend your brand and create a new product line. Those are very unstructured decisions. Even though you may think, well, people have opened new stores in the past, but maybe in your business creating a new store, it's still very unstructured of specifically what your business will need. So those decisions need an increased amount of collaboration. You need a group and a team of alliances that can help you think through the decisions because you don't really have a lot of structure, a lot of well-documented steps and procedures and the exact way in which you need to do something. There's just a lot more thought and a lot more unstructured decisions that need to be made. All right, so let's talk about synchronous versus asynchronous technologies today. This is very important because the business world we live in is not bound by time or distance anymore. So synchronous communication is really helpful when you need to meet, you need to collaborate, but maybe you can't be there together with the people face to face, but you still need to meet at the same time. So think about Skype, or think about any other web technology that allows you to communicate in real time. That's synchronous. And asynchronous is the exact opposite. It just means that we can communicate, but just not at the exact same time. So if I send you an email and you're not at your computer to receive it, and maybe you read the email an hour later, that's considered asynchronous, right? Because we're not communicating, we're not giving and receiving communication at the exact same time. So here's a question to think about. Do you agree with the author that given today's communication technology, most students should forego face-to-face meetings because they're just too difficult to arrange and seldom worth the trouble? So think about some of your group projects. Would it just be best for you and your team members to only meet virtually? Just set up a time, and that way you don't have to worry about driving to a location and the logistics of finding parking or any other of those kind of annoying things that take up time, when if you're just at home, you can just jump on Skype and just have a virtual meeting. What's your idea on that? And what about moving Belmont totally to an online classroom? So the class that you're in with me now, we've already started taking some steps by somewhat of a hybrid approach. We meet face-to-face for a couple of days, and then we have a day in which you do your work virtually. So there are videos that you watch and answer questions on. You're going to have some simulations later in the semester that you will use. So we've already started moving to some more virtual world type asynchronous technologies. I'm just curious about your idea, if you think that's a great idea or not, for Belmont to move more classes into the technology synchronous or asynchronous world. So let's talk about some more characteristics of a collaborator. So we've talked about the purpose of collaboration, what type of decisions we can make, the 3 different levels, and now let's talk about the characteristics of a collaborator. The most effective collaborator is always enthusiastic about the subject. We know in real life there's not too many things that really enthuse us. But when you're in a collaborative environment, it really helps the team if you can be somewhat excited about the topic and engaged. That's not always going to be happen, especially in a work world where you're just required to be on a team. But if you can will yourself into being enthusiastic, it makes you for a much better collaborator. Always being open-minded. There's nothing worse than being on a team with someone who's closed-minded and they don't think anything's going to work. And some of the items here that are highlighted, I wanted to point out, someone who can speak their mind even if it's unpopular viewpoint. You have to be very careful with this, and you have to be very savvy in how you can help people self-discover your viewpoint. So you don't want to be very authoritative and, well, I think that we should do it XYZ. Even if you know that's very unpopular, you have to be a little bit more sensitive and almost have like a negotiation type of mindset to be effective in that way. But that's what teams need. Also, are you willing to enter into difficult conversations? This takes a lot of courage to do, but at the end of the day, if we're really working towards a common goal, we might have to have a difficult conversation at some point. Be very skillful about how you give negative feedback, and also be careful not to take negative feedback personally. So be very careful to remove the emotion from the feedback and use it towards a positive, more of a kind of, I like to look at it as taking feedback, extract the emotion, remove the emotion, and get right down to the root of what the customer is telling you, or what maybe a business partner or a collaborator is telling you, and see, can I use this to make this product better, this project better for the end result? There's really no reason to take it negative. Are you willing to put forward unpopular ideas? That goes back to number 3 a bit as well. And an effective collaborator will think differently and bring different perspectives. That's the whole point of having diverse teams, is because we want the different perspectives. If we can talk about the different perspectives that we have as a team for a new product launch, let's say, we know when we put it out there in the market, we're going to hit all the diverse, well, we won't ever hit all of them, but we know we have a better chance of speaking to all of our diverse customers who might buy the product. All right, so in class, we will have an activity that will take up most of the class, and that's why I thought it would be better to first go over this lecture in a video style and allow you to consume this on your own time. And when we get in class, we're going to have a major collaboration activity. All right. So one last slide is going to be in regards to managing projects. When we start a project, a collaboration initiative, that very first phase is literally called starting. That is the time in which we decide on rules for the team, maybe the roles of the team, who's responsible for what. We just set our scope, what's our budget. It's just a come together time to decide when we're going to meet. Are we going to meet synchronously, asynchronously? And we get all of our startup documents ready. We're just getting ready to start our work. Planning is when we actually start getting into tasks, who's going to do what, determining the actual task of the project, the dependencies, kind of getting really the planning of the overall from start to finish the project down. Then we can move into doing, where we actually start performing the task, solving the problems, documenting our progress, sharing schedules and budgets and work in process. We're actually doing the work of the project. And then we end with a finalization phase where we decide if we've completed our goals, if we've achieved them or not. We prepare any archival documents. We give any final presentations. We turn over the work to the team that's going to maintain it. And maybe we disband our team and we all go to new teams and work on new projects. So that is the end of the material that I have for you, in which I want you to master for collaboration. There are many more things in the chapter which you've already read. You've had an opportunity to work in my MIS lab, get more familiar with the material that's there. And so when I see you in class, we will work our collaboration exercise. I'm really looking forward to that, and I think you'll enjoy it. All right, take care. See you soon.